Hi, my name is Justine M, and for today's video, I will be advocating the foreign learning principles. So I have these 4 questions for us to be guided for today's discussion. So number 1, ano nga ba itong foreign learning principles na ito, or what are meant by learner-centered psychological principles? Number 2, how can teachers help their students using these learning principles? Number 3, what can be the possible situation to apply these learning principles in a classroom? And lastly, what teaching strategies can be used to enhance these foreign learning principles? So bago natin sagutan yung mga tanong na yon, I will be showing you first the foreign learning principles. So having these 14 learning principles, they are divided into 4 categories. So the first category is the cognitive and metacognitive factors. And 6 of the learning principles are: number 2 is the motivational and affective factors. And 3 of the learning principles are: number 3 is the developmental and social factors. So 2 of the learning principles are: number 4 is the individual differences factors. And under this is the remaining 3 learning principles. These are: so we can now proceed to our first question. What are meant by these learner-centered psychological principles? These learning principles are pertaining, of course, to the learner itself and also the learning process. So we have these following aspects under foreign learning principles. So they focus on psychological factors that are primarily internal to and under the control of the learner rather than conditioned habits or psychological factors. Also, the principles attempt to acknowledge external environment or contextual factors that interact with these internal factors. Number 3, the principles also intended to deal holistically with learners in the context of real-world learning situations. So lastly, the principles also intended to apply to all learners, from children to teachers to administrators to parents and to community members involved in our educational systems, or what we call the stakeholders. So proceeding to our second question, how can teachers help their students using these learning principles? By the use of these 14 learning principles, there are things that teachers can help, or the things that they can do for their students. So here it is. The educators can assist learners in creating meaningful learning goals that are consistent with both personal and educational aspirations and interests. Second, educators can assist learners in acquiring and integrating knowledge by a number of strategies that have been shown to be effective with learners of varying abilities, such as concept mapping and thematic organization or categorizing. The learning outcomes can be also enhanced if educators assist learners in developing, applying, and assessing their strategic learning skills. Educators need to be concerned with facilitating motivation by strategies that enhance learner effort and commitment to learning and to achieving high standards of comprehension and understanding. Well, the same basic principles of learning, motivation, and effective instruction that can apply to all learners. Proceeding now to our third question, what can be the possible situation to apply these learning principles in a classroom? Well, teachers can help their students to construct from information, experiences, and their own thoughts and beliefs, and so that their students will become active, goal-directed, self-regulating, and assume personal responsibility for contributing to their own learning. Some positive learning climates can also help to establish the context for healthier levels of thinking, feelings, and behaving. Such context help the learners feel safe to share their ideas, actively participate in the learning process, and create a learning community. So proceeding to our last question, what teaching strategies can be used to enhance these 14 learning principles? Well, there is so many teaching strategies that is so effective. Effective strategies include purposeful learning activities, guided by practices that enhance positive emotions and intrinsic motivation to learn, and methods that increase learners' perceptions that a task is interesting and personally relevant. Some are instructional methods that focus on helping learners develop their higher order strategies that can enhance student learning and personal responsibility for learning. So, our discussion is done. Thank you for watching. And also, I want to leave a message as a future teacher. I'm looking forward onto this quote that always look and choose what's best for our future students.